The rain beat a relentless tattoo against the neon-lit glass of the late-night diner. Tom Wilder stared down at his lukewarm coffee, feeling as stagnant as the dark liquid in his cup. His life had become a series of loops, an endless cycle of unfulfilled potential. That was until a woman in a sharp, slate-gray trench coat slipped into the booth opposite him. Her name was Agent Sarah Vance, and she didn't offer a handshake. Instead, she offered an impossible choice. "Your country, your history, is fraying at the seams, Tom," she said, her voice a low, steady hum over the din of the diner. "We need people who don't exist in the system to mend the threads." She slid a silver card across the laminate table. It bore no name, only a holographic coordinate that pulsed with a faint, iridescent violet light. The coordinates led Tom to a derelict subway station on the edge of the city. Following Vance's instructions, he swiped the silver card against a rusted fuse box. The wall groaned, splitting open to reveal a descending spiral staircase illuminated by amber strip lights. At the bottom lay the heart of the Chronos Redirection Agency. It was a sprawling subterranean metropolis of brass, glass, and supercomputers. Dozens of technicians in crisp uniforms hurried across catwalks, monitoring cascading waterfalls of data. The air smelled of ozone, copper, and old parchment. Tom stood at the railing of a high observation deck, looking down in absolute awe at the organized chaos below. Sarah Vance guided Tom to the central chamber where the Ouroboros resided. It was the agency's crown jewel, a colossal, rotating ring-shaped temporal drive suspended over a pit of absolute darkness. The ring spun with terrifying velocity, hummed with a bone-rattling frequency, and cast a brilliant violet and gold aura across the concrete vault. "This is how we slip between the seconds," Sarah explained, her face illuminated by the machine's fierce, rhythmic pulses of energy. Tom approached the edge of the platform, his jacket whipping around him from the generated wind. The pure scale of the engine made him feel incredibly small, yet a spark of excitement ignited deep in his chest. In a briefing room lined with glass screens, Sarah laid out Tom's first mission. It was a simple test of his mental fortitude and adaptability. October 14, 1926. "Chicago," she said, tapping a display. A local speakeasy called the Velvet Lounge caught fire, destroying a ledger containing key information about a historical conspiracy. "Your objective is to slip in just before the fire, retrieve the ledger from the owner's second-floor office, and get out. You have exactly 15 minutes before the extraction window closes." Tom nodded, strapping a sleek, brass-rimmed wrist device to his arm. He tried to keep his breathing steady, but his heart was hammering a frantic rhythm. Tom stepped into the focal point of the Ouroboros. The air grew impossibly thick, and the scent of ozone became overwhelming. "Initiating jump in 3, 2, 1. Sarah's voice echoed over the intercom. Suddenly, the world tore apart. The solid concrete floor dissolved into a kaleidoscope of light and shadow. Tom felt himself falling upward, his senses overwhelmed by the rushing colors of time bending around him. It was a terrifying, beautiful vertigo, a physical sensation of being stretched across decades in a fraction of a second. He squeezed his eyes shut and braced for impact. With a sudden, violent jolt, Tom slammed into solid ground. He gasped, pulling cold, damp air into his lungs. He was lying in a narrow, brick-walled alleyway. Overhead, the sky was a deep, velvet black, and a cold autumn rain was falling. The distant sound of a car horn, distinctly antique, clattered through the night. He scrambled to his feet, checking his wrist device. The countdown had begun. 14 minutes and 50 seconds. He adjusted his flat cap, stepped out of the shadow of the alley, and emerged onto a bustling 1920s Chicago street illuminated by the warm, golden glow of incandescent bulbs. Tom slipped past the bouncer of the Velvet Lounge with a quick word and a forged ticket. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. A jazz band blasted brassy notes from a small stage, and the dance floor was a blur of fringed dresses and sharp suits. Cigarette smoke hung like a colorful fog under the warm chandeliers. Tom moved through the crowd with practiced ease, his eyes scanning the room. He spotted the staircase leading to the private offices. The sheer sensory overload of the past almost distracted him, but the ticking clock on his wrist kept him grounded. He reached the second-floor office just in time. The room was empty. Tom quickly bypassed the simple lock on the desk drawer, retrieving a thick, leather-bound ledger. But as he turned to leave, a wave of heat hit him. A sudden yell erupted from downstairs, followed by the terrifying crackle of flames. Thick, black smoke began to pour under the door. History was on schedule. The speakeasy was burning. Through the window, he saw a young woman trapped behind a fallen wooden beam in the hallway. Tom's primary directive was to secure the ledger and leave, but he couldn't just watch her perish. Ignoring the countdown on his wrist, Tom rushed into the burning corridor. He threw his weight against the heavy beam, muscles straining as the heat singed his jacket. With a desperate heave, he lifted it, freeing the trapped woman. "Go. Run," he shouted over the roar of the fire. She didn't need to be told twice, scrambling down the back fire escape. Tom checked his wrist device, 30 seconds left. The room was collapsing around him in a shower of sparks and falling plaster. Clutching the ledger tightly to his chest, he triggered the extraction sequence on his wrist. The blinding light returned, pulling Tom from the inferno. He collapsed onto the cold metal floor of the Ouroboros chamber, coughing violently and clutching his soot-stained jacket. As the smoke cleared, he saw Sarah Vance standing over him, a rare, genuine smile on her face. Tom slowly sat up, his body aching, and presented the intact leather ledger. "You saved a life that wasn't on the registry, Wilder," Sarah said, helping him to his feet. "But you got the acid, and you survived. Welcome to the Chronos Redirection Agency." Tom looked around the high-tech sanctuary, finally feeling like he had found his true purpose.